Welcome everyone to this presentation on Heads Up Checkup, Mental Health and Behavioral Risk Screening System. My name is Sandra Brookart, and I expect most of you, like me, have a personal story about how early identification of mental health challenges would have had a positive, life-changing impact on a loved one. I'm so grateful to be involved with a product that has the potential to make such a difference in the lives of so many children. I'd like to start off by sharing a true story of how our screening made a difference in the life of this particular young man. Let's call him Luke. Of course, this is not his real name or his photo, but it's a good illustration of the kind of student Luke has always been. Popular at his middle school, involved in sports and student government, two loving parents involved in his life. Luke was definitely not on anyone's troubled student radar. You may already be thinking that things were not quite as they seemed with Luke, and you would be right. While his parents noticed that he was often sad, they wrote it off to normal adolescent growing pains, as most of us probably would. Fortunately, Luke participated in the mental health screening that was made available to all the students at his middle school. He was open and honest about his feelings, as the majority of students are when presented with the familiar technology and interface of Heads Up Checkup. During the screening, Luke endorsed a statement that he had been thinking of taking his life. Within an hour of completing the screening, Luke was called in to meet with a crisis counselor contracted by the school. During this initial interview, the clinician discovered that Luke not only had a plan, he had the rope and had been watching online videos to learn exactly how to tie the knot. The following week, we received this email from Dad thanking the counselor and the team for saving his child's life. I know all of you are painfully aware of the ever-increasing number of children facing mental health challenges, or you would not be considering the Heads Up Checkup system. I think one of our best features is that, unlike other currently available screening options, Heads Up Checkup is designed to screen everyone, not just the kids that are already on the radar. School-wide screening does so much to help reduce the stigma around mental health concerns. Everyone is doing it, everyone is talking about it, no one is singled out. Feedback we've received from students taking Heads Up Checkup has been overwhelmingly positive, and so many kids were so grateful for an opportunity to share their story. Let's dig in now to the mechanics of how the Heads Up Checkup system works. On the following slides, I have specifically addressed the adolescent self-report version for ages 12 to 17. There are 5 other versions of the screening for different age groups, and all versions are available in English and Spanish. Each version covers symptoms from 20 of the most common mental health concerns for that age group, as well as risk assessment for self-harm, harm to others, severe stress, and adverse childhood experiences. The average completion time is 8 minutes, and Heads Up Checkup can be completed on any device connected to the internet. Although Heads Up Checkup is software as a service company and is not a healthcare provider, we have instituted healthcare level security throughout our system. Nothing is ever downloaded to any local device, and all results data is maintained in a HIPAA-compliant server environment. Heads Up Checkup is happy to sign a business associate agreement with any healthcare providers designated by our clients. There are 2 access portals to the Heads Up Checkup system. Let's start with the user portal and what the students see and experience. It begins with a simple data spreadsheet provided by the school. This information is uploaded to the school's Heads Up Checkup account, and during that process, a confidential user account is created for each individual student. When it's time to launch the screening, The classroom facilitators are provided with a brief script to read to the students, and the URL is shown on the whiteboard. Students will log in with familiar credentials. Typically, the username is the student ID, and the password is date of birth. Once the student logs in, they can click on the bar to complete a screening. Since students will have access to their Heads Up Checkup accounts 24/7, the ability to take a screening can be turned on and off if desired. Turning the screening off during non-school hours ensures that screening results are not coming in when no one is available to respond. At the beginning of the screening, there is a consent and privacy notice reminding the student that the screening is voluntary and that results will remain confidential unless the law requires disclosure. The language in this particular consent is in accordance with the laws in California regarding mental health treatment for children ages 12 to 17. I'm going to digress from our user experience for just a moment to share a little bit about how the screening itself works. Students choose the behaviors and symptoms that are causing concern by endorsing a series of statements regarding habits, thoughts, and behaviors. The statements contained in Heads Up Checkup are based on actual diagnostic criteria as published by the World Health Organization in ICD-10 Classification of Mental and Behavioral Disorders, Clinical Descriptions, and Diagnostic Guidelines. This is an example of some of the statements you would see in the Heads Up Checkup screening regarding depression. Like an automated structured interview, questions are presented based on previous responses. For example, if there is no initial endorsement of concerns about depression, then no deeper level statements about depression will be presented. This smart programming makes every screening unique, and it's how Heads Up Checkup can be both comprehensive and quick. Feedback is available to the student immediately on completion. The system groups the student's endorsed statements into areas of concern and indicates the level of concern on a spectrum. This feedback is intended to give the student some perspective. In this particular example about attention and concentration, we're saying, hey, if you're a little distracted now and then, that's pretty normal. But if your struggles to stay focused are affecting your grades and relationships, we really encourage you to talk to someone about this. The Get Support link, also in the student's account, is fully customizable. It can include a resource referral list with various levels of support such as crisis lines, peer support, live chat links, public and private mental health programs. These are just some examples of what can be included in the customized Get Support link. Now let's take a look at the system from the administrator's perspective. There are two permission levels within account administration. One is clinical and gives access to results reports for students in crisis. The other is data and gives access to de-identified results that can be aggregated and analyzed. Those with clinical access will be responsible for the duty to warn and protect, as well as the responsibility to maintain confidentiality of the student's results. Clinical access is generally not provided to a school, primarily to minimize its liability, but also to put students and parents at ease regarding mental health screening results becoming part of school records without their consent. We recommend that one clinician or crisis response team member per school be designated as the lead to receive the crisis email notifications automatically generated by the Heads Up Checkup system. These notifications are sent immediately on completion of a screening wherein a student has endorsed sufficient statements to raise reasonable suspicion of abuse, imminent self-harm, and/or imminent harm to others. The notification email does contain a quick link to access the administrator portal where the actual questions and answers from the student can be viewed. The clinical results report shows the responses endorsed by the student. Responses are aggregated and grouped on the report by risk factors, adverse childhood experiences, and diagnostic considerations. Overall, the clinical report has a great deal of useful information that helps the crisis response team in determining priorities, as well as to support the counselor in initial conversations with the student. The data administrator permission level gives access to graphs, charts, and tables that represent de-identified results. The data is available immediately and can even be viewed live as screenings are being completed. Data can be aggregated by risk factors or by diagnostic considerations, as we see in this example. We do encourage you to be prepared. Our recent experience with school-wide screenings indicate that about 80% of students will participate. And of those 80%, 10 to 12% will endorse statements that raise reasonable suspicion of abuse, self-harm, or harm to others. The screening is definitely the easy part, and we've worked hard to make our screening and risk assessment system the least of your worries. We know that committing to school-wide mental health and behavioral risk screening is kind of like opening Pandora's box. But I know we all agree that the problem is not going away. Together, we have the ability to identify these children and get them the help they need before they act out. Thank you so much for your time and interest in the Heads Up Checkup screening system. If you have any questions, please contact me at this number or email Sandra at headsupcheckup.com.